What are the most important things for you in making music?
The first step is always playfulness, and the headline is listening. For me, the most fascinating thing was always that there's nothing, and then you create a sound, and there's suddenly something there, and that sound disappears, and you follow it, you listen to it, how it disappears, and then you experience silence. And that's still something I love doing, just listening to it. That's the main process for me.
What is your favorite thing about the sitar and playing music on this instrument?
Well, even though I have experienced and experimented with many musical traditions during my life, the sitar has become the essence of it, and I feel extremely lucky to have done it. To a point where I feel sorry for people who don't have this sort of thing, where you can pick up your instrument and immediately go into another state, into another kind of consciousness, into another kind of emotional space. It has to be understood that if you take up sitar with a lot of commitment, you also come in touch with the real India, the India of all facets.
What is the relationship between the harmonic chant and space?
In deep contemplative states, there's no gap between inside and out. Lord Penland, when he was encouraging me at the very beginning, he said, "Wow, David, I think it must be marvelous for people to rediscover inner space through this kind of music." So the point of the music, it serves as a training ground for refinement of awareness. Listening is not only about going out. The roots of listening are in silence. It's very important to be aware that there is as much infinite space within as in the so-called outer universe. That's really, really important. And how to feel connected with that. Our innermost awareness is the same as space.
The other new release is the solo album As It Is. Steve, what can you tell us about it?
Yeah, that's a challenging piece there because this music and the place it emerges from is so deeply channeled through, I guess you'd say, or brought through. I mean, there's a certain aspect of it where I hardly have a memory of making some of it, when I hear it now, because I was so down into this space over the last year, as we've all been down into our own spaces over this last year, and we've been navigating that in the ways that we all do. And for me, that navigation, as you've heard, has been quite a flow of music coming forth. And some of that music's been really more dramatic and sequential and energetic and just working towards this place of staying empowered from a positive space, just feeling, that we're together moving through this really challenging time. This As It Is term for me is really that there's so many points along the way in our life that we've navigated through all types of challenges, and yet there's this constant, there's this steady state of where you're looking out and you moving through it, but you're still connected to a deeply quiet, centered place within yourself, and that's the place that I keep returning back to and finding that in the natural world. I'm looking out and I'm seeing things out in the view here that are completely unchanged, unaware of what's been happening in the human world. And so some aspect of that kind of sustained connection to the bigger picture of time and space and our place on the planet and how long we're here. We're not here that long. Those kind of epiphanies that start coming through in a place that's below language. It's beyond explaining what it is to be fully engaged in life, no matter how challenging things become, that you still find that place that is the through line of your life.
How does music work for you in the healing process?
Well, I believe that this works, at least for me, because by being in this present moment state with the music, and coming from my heart, there's a space that's opened where unhealthy perceptions begin to unwind, and then my brain begins to rewire and my nervous system begins to reset. I'm still trying to understand it in its full complexity. Music is a powerful, powerful healer.
Congratulations on your new album, The Gong Prophet. Who is this mysterious character, the Gong Prophet?
I don't know. It's just part of my fascination with Indonesian culture. In Indonesia, there's a very strong spiritual aspect with gamelan and the music and culture there. And they believe that the gong has a spirit in it. So they're real powerful gongs. They give names. So got to thinking about that whole aspect of the gong having its own consciousness. Somehow the name Gong Prophet popped up in my head and was like, well, that sounds like a good title for something. So that's how that came about.
Stylistically, your music is very much connected to the California School of Electronic Music. What aspects of this American music tradition impacted you the most?
What attracted me to the Californian School of Electronic Music from the beginning, I cannot find in the European one, is the connection with the mysteries of existence, the mind, nature, the mystical side, the transcendence, the connection also with the Eastern philosophical traditions, and in essence, the mystery of everything that surrounds us. I have to feel that mystery in music, both when listening to it and when creating music.
I think it was in 1977 when you were playing your first planetarium concert. What took you to make music for planetariums?
You know, I was a child of the Sputnik era. Well, my father brought me out and we saw that satellite and I would be staring at the sky. So I said, there is a subject that has no limits. You're not writing love songs. You're not writing pop songs. You're not going to be doing that, and you're not going to be writing classical. You're going to be writing about stuff and subjects that are infinite. You're never going to run out of material. So synthesizers being the same thing, they're capable of millions upon millions of combinations of sounds and textures. Well, you take a look at the sky, you can see the same thing going on. Millions and millions of situations, colors in the sky, planets. I mean, how infinite are we talking? Quite infinite.
There is, in fact, a modular boom in recent years. How do you explain this resurgence of modular synthesizers?
Yeah, it's quite strange in a way. It certainly gives me a wry smile because I've been using these since 1980 or so. Mm-hmm. And during the late 80s, beginning of the 90s, people were just giving these things away. There were quite literally, you could walk past a skip and there'd be a modular synthesizer inside because the value went so low because everybody wanted digital synths and computers were starting to come through. And modular synths can be quite hard work in terms of you have to patch them up from scratch and you can't really store the sounds. But the 70s and 80s, modular synthesizers were very, very expensive. So very few people could really use these. And I think it's a combination of the modular range using the Eurorack format is a lot cheaper. It's a lot easier to make. Obviously, the internet makes it a lot easier to show videos on YouTube and all that side of things. And I also think there's a little bit of a dissatisfaction with using computers. Whilst they have a lot of plus points, they're not a very personal way of using an instrument. I'm sure there's people out there who do amazing things with them, but the hands-on approach that you get with a modular synthesizer, for me, certainly is certainly a lot more fun than using a mouse and a screen and a computer.
What aspects from the Berlin school captivated you so much that you adopted the style in most of your albums?
It seemed to approach music entirely different than anything else. I mean, here comes this music that sounds like the cosmos, and I think one of the things that appealed to me the most was the way you could interlock sequencers to make polyrhythms or syncopated rhythms. There was a way, it was almost Baroque. I've often said that my three biggest influences for the kind of electronic music I'm doing are German electronic, French Impressionism, and American minimalism. And last but not least was the sense of freedom. It was so flexible and so fluid, and it just seemed like you could make anything happen.
What are the most important things for you in making music?
Well, I think that the feeling I got when I was 5 years old, when I listened to Bach's music, it was a kind of that the room expanded and I got my whole spine, kind of erected, or I could feel a very vertical substance in myself because of this music. And this opens and it gives a kind of both spiritual but also very physical experience at the same time. I feel music has this ability when it is at its best to open up and to uplift us. That is what I would like to give through the music.
When did you first realize you wanted to create music for a living?
I'm not actually sure if what I do makes me a musician. I feel a little bit like a person who does flower arranging as a hobby and is being described as an artist. And sure, there's artistic things in flower arranging, but it's not exactly painting a Mona Lisa. And atmospheric music is just a little bit different to conventional music. There's no real rhythm, there's no real melody, there's no lyrics, and there's barely a message. It's just something to be mind-expanding and to be evocative of an experience. In my case, a lot of my music is evocative of nature.
When this interest in philosophy began in your life?
The short answer is that I'm a lifelong philosopher as well as musician, and to me the two very much go together, in that music is a way of expressing the inexpressible. Language fails us. Well, there is the voice of music, and for me, music is a bridge between language and the world of conception that might inform a philosophical journey.